growth is important for poverty reduction. So without economic growth, it's difficult to create jobs. Jobs is one of the major things for poor people to have income. But actually the poverty reduction in Asia in the last 20 years was mainly a rural phenomenon and not an urban phenomenon, which is interesting. Actually, urban poverty increased and did not decrease. So the success story in Asia is a rural success story. And the success story in Asia is a success story of the very poor people. Now, growth normally, if it trickles down to the not very poor, but to the people around the poverty line, above the poverty line, to the $2 poor people. But actually, the $2 poor people did not decline. The number of the $2 poor people did not decline. So growth in Asia was not really inclusive. It actually, it happened. It benefited also poor people, middle-income people. But it was not the main reason for poverty reduction. The main reason for poverty reduction were very effective rural-based poverty reduction programs. And now comes to the urban side. Now you have more and more poor people in the cities, partly because of migration, partly because of other reasons, partly because of urbanization, which is not related to migration, bigger cities becoming bigger, cities taking land of rural areas. So the question then is, how do you address poverty in those cities? And if the first story is correct, namely that in rural areas it didn't work to growth, then it wouldn't work in urban areas either. You cannot leave it to the market and to solve those problems, particularly not to the property market, because I don't think that the property markets in the cities of Asia are really pro-poor. They are actually the opposite. The other thing is, of course, all the infrastructure which the government is putting in cities, water, slum upgrading things, public transport systems. Most of them are designed for middle-class people. Yeah? So it's the bicycle lane which is being taken away for the bus lane. Now the bus is maybe is a good system for public transport. It brings you rapid somewhere, maybe, if it is designed that way. But actually the transport means of the poor person is the bicycle. And the reason for that is that the poor person doesn't really need to go far distant in the city, because they live and work very close by. So a bicycle or even walking is a very appropriate means of transport for poor people. The moment you change that system, that people live and work and even go for entertainment in the area where they live, by building a specific residential area where they live, and then you have the working place somewhere different, you have to create other transport systems. So that's a second point I would emphasize, the importance of considering the needs of the poor people in project design, rather than thinking that the project design for middle-class person is automatically the best also for the poor. Best example is water or utility payments. Yeah? Poor people typically don't have a bank account for paying once a month the water bill or the electricity bill. So if you really want to do something for the poor people, you upgrade the water system, then you have to create also a payment system which is appropriate to them. And typically a payment system appropriate to them is paying every week a little bit, and somebody, mostly women, going around in the slum area and picking up the money from women, of course, yeah, because they are the only one who are saving, and pay in small installments. So if you have a utility company, you have to design it that way. You have to be very, very conscious about those things. One example from Manila Water is the biggest water privatization deal which was ever done, I think, worldwide in 1999. So that was with support of the World Bank, actually. One of the things they did, they invested a lot of money to find out what do poor people in slums really need. And so one of the things they found out was that you need to have a meter, for, not for one household, but for a whole group of households, and to distribute the water. And then they, among themselves, they find out who uses more water and who uses less water. You as a company, you don't deal with that. And they introduce these women picking up the money and so on and so forth. So all that you have to consciously design. And I think you have to do that more in the future than we did that in the past. The reason for urbanization should still be providing living quality for those people who want to live in the cities, and not GDP growth. Because if your objective is only the GDP growth, you don't provide living quality. That's the point. You provide then shabby housing. You provide housing and there is no park in front where children can play. You provide roads without sidewalks for people to walk, because you want to get quickly money or buying capacity. So you push the migrants to the cities and you hope that they quickly have some money, and you don't care really whether they're happy there or not. Urbanization can be a very, very dangerous potential, much more than rural villages. And I think Asia has to be careful there, that the things which happened in Latin America, this huge urbanization, and governments didn't care years ago, now it has changed. As a consequence, people were moving into the favelas and into the slum areas of Latin America, and violence became tremendous, and violence went out of that slum, it went to the middle class, and it was very dangerous to live in many of those cities. So I think that could happen in Asia also, and governments, local governments need to be aware of that.